Naturally, over time, some games will pass you by. It's something that can't be helped. My first proper PC gaming experience was Quake, but some of the games that came before that have so far eluded me. When I try to play through a campaign for one of them, quite often I find something just seems to be missing. In my experience, it would seem that Heretic is a good example of such a title. The appeal of its arcane elements and fantasy setting pique my curiosity, and I often find myself watching footage on YouTube and also regularly trying out various mods, only to find that for some reason I don't come back to it. Yet, a few weeks later, there I am again installing yet another mod. So there's clearly something unresolved here which at least partially manages to stimulate or hold my attention. So over the last couple of days, I've tried out probably more mods for Heretic than I've ever done before. I did eventually stumble upon one mod in particular, which I think is worth showcasing today. So let's take a look at a mod called Quake Descent into Heresy. Right, welcome to a look at Descent into Heresy, which is a Quake-themed mod for Heretic. And I'm pretty much looking around at all the variety of mods on ModDB at the moment, because I do want to get into this. It's got some lovely aspects to it that do regularly attract me to the game. I did actually find other mods which in some ways were perhaps even better to showcase on the channel, but I think this one is a good starting point for looking at Heretic. And over time I'll probably come back to the other ones. In fact, I very likely will. The soundtrack in the background is subtle, but the way it builds and slowly comes in is very well done. And it has that Quake vibe, that Quake theme. I think one of the things that does put me off sometimes with some games is if the enemies feel a bit too spongy, which I do find a little bit to be the case with Heretic. But this seems to kind of negate that somewhat. But it's very often the case if you haven't played something around the time it came out, going back to it can be very hard to get into something. So an example might be the game that I never played called Syndicate. I mean the very first release of Syndicate. Oh, I've just remembered I've missed a secret. But I played the Syndicate that came out quite recently. Or relatively recently anyway. And I love it, but those who love the first version of the game, you know, weren't very, or some of them weren't very happy with it. So it depends on your history with the game as to whether or not you can get into it. You know, the emotional attachment that people have to a certain game or series. Another example would be Hitman. I liked, is it Absolution? something like that. I can't quite remember its title, but I enjoyed that. But I'm not that bothered about the earlier games, which I've run out of ammunition. In fact, let's go and find some. But yeah, I'm not so bothered about the earlier games. I might enjoy them if I played them, but I'm really not too bothered. There's always something else that you want to spend your time on. Oh, it looks like there is no ammunition that's easily available. So we'll have to make use of the axe and the grenade launcher. Just for now, anyway. But having a Quake-esque kind of theme naturally was going to appeal to me. Now, I think there's a secret here. I do like the fantasy theme, though, of this game. And the kind of sort of role-playing theme that it has. You do have items that you can pick up and use, a bit like in Quake 2, where you've got more than just the minimum number of power-ups that you get in the first Quake game. So it does create a bit more variety. Double-barreled shotgun. So I'm determined to experience Heretic because it's got plenty of aspects to it which I do find that does attract my attention. And it was the first game, I believe, that used the Doom engine outside of id's own creation. Although John Romero was responsible for, I think, helping Raven to produce it. So how are we doing? Still one secret and 4 enemies remaining. Let's go back and try and find them. God knows where they are. This is all fairly new ground to me. I think I have to go outside, but I'm not sure how I get there. I may have to cheese my way through it by just... because I've got the jump feature enabled. Not quite sure how we get there. Doing it legitimately. But anyway, just for quickness, let's just squeeze through like that. Oh, he's catching me. And another one. And as you can see, there's sort of a Quake-like quality to the water, which is quite nice. It's got a lovely theme of Quake without being too much of too Quake-centric. It still has other sort of aspects to it. Bag of holding, I like that. That will enable you to go from, for example, 50 shotgun shells to 100. The medkits, I think, give you 10, and the larger ones, I'm not sure. It might be 25. So that portal takes you back here. Right, we've more or less done it, so I think it's time to exit the level. and then very quickly show how I installed the mod. Ah, there's the last enemy. It's got a sort of a vague Brutal Doom or Ketchup feel to it when you know, the way the enemies die. Whether that's just how it was anyway, I don't know. I don't know the original game well enough, but I don't think it was. Anyway, let's tackle the installation. Right, so here it is. It's OSJC's Quake, Descent into Heresy, released about a year ago. It says it requires ZDoom version 2.8.1, but I've been running it on GZDoom, the latest version of, in fact. And I think it mentions somewhere, either here or in the README, that the colours look better on GZDoom, and I would agree with that. So I recommend that you use GZDoom. And basically there's several files that we're going to need. So you've got the Quake liquids, there's the soundtrack should you want it, I recommend it. And then we've got the actual main mod if you like. I'm going to create a folder just for the purposes of this installation. And I'm just going to call it Quake and Heretic, doesn't really matter what you call it. And this is the latest version of GZDoom, which I think is a 3.5 something or other. So you just want to simply copy that, and we're going to pop it into the correct file. There we go, so we can get rid of that now. You're going to also need a Heretic WAD file. So if you've got it on Steam, then just install Heretic and then get the WAD file, drop it in. And then we've got the actual mod files here. So this is the soundtrack. Again, copy, paste in. And the Quake liquids. So that's things for like water and I think lava as well, although I haven't come across any lava yet. And then finally, this is what I would call the main bulk or the main body of the mod. So again, you can just, you don't need all of these files, you can lose the screens and the credits and so forth if you wish, but and the README. But just for convenience, I'll drop it all in here. Right, that's done, so we can push those aside. Now the order is important for the mod, for loading the mod, as you can appreciate. And just referencing my bit of scrap paper here. Now, I think what you're going to have to do, you want to select, the first file is Quake, Descent into Heresy, and hold down Control. Then we want to go to Textures, and then I'm looking but I can't see it, Liquids, Skies, Monsters, and then if you wish the soundtrack. So I think that makes it 6 files, yeah. And then you're just going to want to drag and drop onto your GZDoom there, like that, and then naturally just select Heretic when prompted. So there we go. If this mod appeals to you, then check out the links in the description, and away you go. So that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, then please consider liking and subscribing. And I'll see you in the next video, which will probably be the Stalker Anomaly mod part 4. Bye for now.